Welcome back to the channel, and this week you're in for a treat. We have a two-parter. No expense spared on the podcast. Bung old Bates is off to Ireland soon. He's overexcited, if I'm being honest with you. But I have managed to persuade him to give away a few secrets. But before we go there, yep, it's the ongoing Tench Challenge, and to make things worse, we've added eels as well. So, Tench and Eel Challenge, what could possibly go wrong? Welcome everybody to episode 6 of Tales from the Tackle Shop, and we are revisiting the Tench Challenge today. And to make it even more difficult, we're throwing in eels as well. So basically, whoever catches the heaviest bag of tench and the most eels wins. In reality, whoever catches a tench and eel will win, because we've been useless at this. Anyway, Bung Old Bates has chosen the venue. He's chosen the free stretch at Benwick, or Benwick, as some of you foreigners say. I have zero confidence in us catching anything. The weather's changed, it's got really cold, and we're going to sit there and get absolutely annihilated by Rudd. Anyway, let's get there. Let's have a word with Bungole and let's see what happens. Here we are, I'm at Benwick, and look, Bunghole is already here. It is 15:38, 38 minutes past 3. Look at Batesy, look what time he phoned me. Is that focus on there? If you can't see, it says 12 minutes past 3. He told me he was leaving the shop at 3 o'clock at the earliest, so I'm thinking he'll be here at 3:30. He did this last time on the 16th foot. Typical match angler. He's trying to stitch me up. I'm going to hurt abuse at him. Unbelievable. He's giving me the bum swim. So I get the bad swim, do I?
No, you get the one that's been raked and like no wind and like the candle's still there. Is that right? Yeah.
Why are we not at that end?
Well, you'll see, there's no pegs been cut out up there.
That's where Love You Simon had a tench from when I was filming him.
Oh, love you, Simon. That was in the winter, mate.
What are we going to catch?
Well, nothing if you don't hurry up.
I was going to go for the little rake, but I'm going to destroy my swim. Might as well destroy his as well. Right, that is a lot of weed. It's still pretty solid, but I'm just going to try and make a little hole that I can fish into, because it's too weedy to try and get all the weed out. So I'm going to use the little one just to line myself with my bait bucket and a tree on the far side. I'm just going to keep hitting that spot 3 or 4 pulls and just try and get a little clear area that I can present the bait to.
So we're at a proper venue now. One where you can just turn up, park behind your peg, free fishing, no one sat in your peg. Another day of blustery wind in the fens, and we're at Benwick. This is the free stretch between the 2 bridges at Benwick, and the challenge today is to catch, is it biggest weight of tench and then combined weight of eels, did we say, or numbers of eels? Okay.
Mix it up.
Mixing it up, right. So Andy's got here late as per usual. I'm upwind of him, so I won't be able to smell his stinking rotten wheat, which is the reason why we caught nothing last time, I think. So yeah, I'm going to fish chop worms and casters pretty much down what we would say the track, but it's probably just past middle, I would say. It's full of cotweed, and I found a couple of little holes, one here on this line where I'm going to feed worms and casters, and a line a bit shorter where I've fed maggots to try and catch a few eels. Normally I like to give it 20 minutes before I go on it, normally in match conditions, but obviously we're just going all out attack today, so I'm straight on the worm line long. I fed that with probably about 100ml chop worms and casters, dendrobinas, and then on the short line I've probably fed quarter pint of maggots, chopped up, minced up, and a few live maggots. And yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I'm quite confident, to be honest, that we're both going to catch. Even Andy might catch one today, and we'll see how it goes. Rig wise, very similar to all the chop worm fishing. It actually features a gram rig rather than a 1.5 grams. Grams, you might say, is quite heavy for the depth of the water, but because we're fishing in holes in the weed, I want a fairly heavy rig to get through that weed. I've also set the rig so that I can sort of tell when my rig's sat on weed, so I'm not wasting my time with my hook bait covered in cot. Basically, it'll hold up if it's sat on weed. We've got an Olivet, and we've got 2 number 10 droppers above a 8-inch hook length. So that should, any sort of indication of weed or anything like that, that will show up. It's 0.20 main line to an 0.16 hook length. You might think that's a bit overkill for a drain, but there's a lot of weed. We want to catch eels, and when that float goes under, we just keep pulling and pulling and pulling. So yeah, that's rig, and then that's down to a size 14 Hayabusa 122, which is a black nickel wide gape. That's going to be my worm hook. And then for eels, I'm using a smaller hook because I'm going to be fishing maggots. I'm using a 17 711, which you might think that's a bit small, but eels do prefer a smaller hook. And I've realised why Andy's coming to me first, so then he can go back and copy me. Well, he can't copy me because he's on a Mickey Mouse nodding method, but copy me as best you can.
So Alex has explained his setup. I am going to try the lift method again. I don't think it's going to work, and the main reason is it's so weedy. So as you would have seen earlier, I've dragged out the swim as much as I possibly can with weed, but there's so much of it down here, it's just everywhere. I'm going to give it a go, and if the tench move in, or the eels, or both, then it might work because they'll probably pick up the bait pretty quick, and actually the bait hitting the water might attract them to the exact location. If it's just the odd fish moving in, that shot's going to sink into the weed, the worm will get into the weed, and it's not going to work. I may have to use a waggler, which is not what I want to do because I want to try and catch on the lift method. But we'll try it to start off with, see what happens. I've been stitched up. Bait seems farting about with holes in the weed. It's so weedy here. He was plumbing the depths, trying to find little holes in the weed, and his elastic was coming right out as big chunks of weed were coming up on his plummet. Got no chance. Anyway, back to what we're doing. So he's also stitched me up. He's got no dead maggots, he told me. He let it slip, didn't he? He's got some dead maggots, but he hasn't given them to me. I know his game. I've got live maggots, which are going to crawl away in the weed and no good. So I've got casters, so I've put a load of casters in. I just filled it in with casters because they'll sit there on the bottom. I'm going to keep pinging maggots in. I want to trap loads of small fish in, and I don't have a chopped worm scissor or a pole to pop them in. I pinged in lots of whole worms, which are not going to last very long because they're going to move off in the water. Let's see what happens.
Here we go, Boris. Got one. Yeah. Yeah. You can see it's a tench, definitely. Yeah, tench, look. Oh, come off! No way! Yeah.
It's 6:30 and we've got an update. Bunghole's just lost one. We're going to go and see him in a minute. It was a tench, about £3. Hopefully I've got it on the GoPro. Oh, you should hear him. He is really, really sulking. Anyway, I've got nothing to report in my swim. Just the odd little fish picking up my big baits. Obviously my hook's so big. I don't want to catch little fish, so that's my excuse. Not interested unless it's a eel or a tench. So I've caught nothing. Alex had a few perch. lost that tench. We'll go and see him, and just he is bleating. It is hilarious. Come on then, tell us what happened.
Huh? You what?
Tell us what happened.
The
tench, mate. Come on, the tench. What happened?
Well, I can't believe I've just lost a tench. Basically, got the old traditional lift. I thought I'll leave it. Struck. Shouted to Andy, fish on. Seen the tench go here, there, and everywhere. Got it up. Got it coming along the top. Shipping back. Literally waiting for the net to go, and the hook pulled out. So I'm sure your GoPro footage you'll have every single bit of it.
So, yeah.
Unbelievable.
And if Luke got at the end, mate, you're going to be in tears.
Yeah. I think we might have another one on now. Oh, that was it.
And then you tried to claim it as a what did you actually say, which I thought was really underhand?
Wow.
Go on.
If we don't catch any now, I've still won, innit? Because I've actually hooked one.
You can't claim that, mate.
Oh, right.
No.
Right, that is it.
Yeah. Right. Well, we've had interlopers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting close. It's got to be imminent. I'm gonna have a sandwich and go back to my swim.
I'll catch another one, don't worry.
Okay. This is deja vu. Unbelievable. It is 10 to 9, pitch black, and we haven't caught tench. Again. Oh God. And even more bizarre is we didn't even catch any eels. So I filled it in with maggots, kept the worm on all the time, and you think if you weren't catching bigger fish like tench, you'd get the odd eel. Nothing. Alex the same. Now obviously he lost that tench, which he was gutting, because that would have ended this saga. But no, it continues. We made a decision. We made a unilateral decision tonight on the riverbank. Now that's it. We are not fishing for tench again this season. I think it could be June the 16th for next season, and obviously we'll go somewhere where there are millions of tench that jumping out the water into your landing net, because we're obviously shit at catching tench. This never used to be the case. I don't know what's happened, but yeah, not good at all. So, what is that? Something's flashing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the tackle shop, and Alex is going to do something on the gear you need for Ireland. So let's go there. Right, here we are in the calf. We've got funny light flies, and it's the evening after the night before.
Yeah, the night before.
Hold on, Alex. I've got no mic on you.
Oh, I've lost my flow now. Yeah, it was like the net was basically bulging, and somehow the tench didn't go in the net.
Are you still sour about the tench?
Yeah, I haven't lost a tench in like God knows how long, and the only time when it matters I lose it. I bottled it.
We suck.
Well, I think you suck more than what I do, but yeah, a bit disappointed really. We never caught an eel, never caught a tench. I think it's easier to catch a tench and an eel than not catch one at Benwick. There's no rancid wheat this time to blame. There was no anglers fishing in pegs before we got there. There was no bad conditions. There was... I don't know what to blame it on, to be fair. Normally as anglers we've got some really good excuses, but I just think we're shit.
I've got one. It's called the raking. Was my raking to blame? Come on, you got to blame.
I don't think so. No, I don't think we can blame that. I mean, I just think that we're either doing something majorly wrong, but I don't know what, or we're just ain't got it, are we? You either got it or you ain't, and we ain't got it at the minute.
Mojo's gone. Anyway, we're going to sulk, but before we get on to sulking, what we're going to do, guys, is we're not going to have a podcast on the, let me get my dates right, the 11th of September. We'll have our next podcast on the 25th of September, and we'll do the draw for the tournament S-Rod and the dial goodies in the side.
You can get in and get your squares sorted. Had some prizes donated by We'll Love You Simon himself, Mr. Willsmore. Lovely little, basically a Hydra come side-wide float set, Ballerini shot, obviously the best float paint on the market, and some sight bristles. So that's going to be one prize. And then friends at Daiwa, Mr. Green has sent some ends on goodies, some hook bait bag, little bait sieve, and double and hooking mat there. So that's another prize. And then what we've done from Tackle and Baits, obviously because Andy's such a nice fella, doesn't mention the Fishing for England boat team much, is a product that is quite sort of specialised to the area, and that's a Tournament S 11'6" match rod. I mean, these retail for considerable amount of money, like £494.99 amount of money. I can, for £2 a ticket, is it, Andy? £2 a ticket, this could be yours. So we're going to have all the tickets available in the shop. So next time you're in, it's only £2. It's going to a good cause. You could have a chance of winning a brand spanking new Tournament S match 11'6".
A huge thank you from myself to Alex, Daiwa UK and Simon Willsmore for supplying those prizes. That's incredibly kind of you guys. We're going to have a grid of 500 squares on, so it's £2 a square. If you'd like to buy a square and go into the tackle shop, or obviously more than one square, make sure you put your phone number or give your phone number to whoever you're buying the square off so they can write it onto the grid so we can get in contact with you if you win. And also I'm going to set up a PayPal account. If you buy squares off the PayPal account, can you please send me a PM via my messenger? I will keep you on the messenger, and then obviously if you win I can contact you back directly. £2 guys, you could win top of the range rod. Obviously you want to contribute more than £2, that'd be fantastic. We're going to try and fill up the 500 squares, and we'll do the draw end of August, probably on one of the podcasts. If we can fill over more than 500, we're going to try and hit 1,000, so a bit of a target for everybody. So get involved, please contribute, and thanks for your help.
There's a few squares to go, but that'd be a perfect little present. And certain people are very lucky in the draw, so they'll probably win it, won't they?
Yeah, we'll do a randomised draw, but there's a few squares left, so you can look in the description of this, go on the Facebook page, there's loads of ways you can enter, you can come in the shop, or you can enter online for the PayPal link. Right, let's get into Ireland.
Yeah, so I'm a bit stressed at the minute, a lot going on, and when I'm going to Ireland, I'm even more stressed because I've got everything sorted out, and I don't know if anyone knew, there's a big bait shortage in the UK at the minute, and it's really starting to piss me off. Yeah, so obviously we try and turn as many of our own casters, and yeah, every man and his dog wants casters this time of year, and no one's got any. So they all ask me for some, and me being me, I try and supply everyone. And yeah, so I'm a bit stressed about all that. But before I go to Ireland, I'm not a very organised person, but I do have a bit of a checklist and just brainstorm a few ideas, and I have loads of things on my list to start off with, but when it gets nearer to it, I think, I don't need that and I don't need that. But there is a few essential bits and pieces. So obviously going to Ireland, you set out, your platform, your gear is tested to the limits. The venues that I fish are not, they're all slightly different. Some venues you might need some whips, like fishing to hand. Some venues it might be feeder dominated, but not a big chuck. So like 11-foot rods are what you need. And another venue you might need to, or certain pegs on certain venues where there's deeper channels and gullies and things where you might need to chuck a bit further. So when you go to Ireland, you need to take literally a kitchen sink with you, but at the same time, you need to scale it down as much as possible. And the reason why I say that is there's no barrows, you know, everything's settled down rocks and in and out of the water, in and out of boats. So like for your platform, for example, you want to keep all your platform legs, you want to keep rollers, all stuff like that, all your sort of mechanical stuff in one place, and then you want your bait in another, and then it's what I always do before I go to Ireland is get it all out, everything when I'm sorted, get my setup right. So I'll get my platform, put my box on it, get my side trays out, get my bait brollies, because obviously bait brollies are essential out there. You're sat in the middle of nowhere, everything needs to be tied down. So I don't like to have legs on my side trays, I like to have side tray support arms, and just doing that before I go makes a massive difference. Get it all out, everything there, and then pack it all away as if I'm going to be in Ireland. That way I know where everything goes in. I know that that bag is the right for that. I'm not taking anything like just a little bag for another bag's sake, which when you're in the UK and you park behind your peg, you just you just take all sorts of shit, don't you? But when you're in Ireland, obviously you've got to think about space in your vehicle. So it's quite a big to do, really. So yeah, going back to my setup, I make sure that your platform's greased, your legs, you know, even having a pair of pliers with you in case your platform seizes up. When you're fishing 2 weeks on the trot and your platform's in the water more than it's out of the water, you need to make sure that in case you get some casualties, you need to make sure you've got spares and things like that. Talking about spares, we'll move on to waders. I always like to take 2 sets of waders. I know 1 set should be enough, but the weather conditions, you might get wet one day and then the next day you don't want to be sat in cold, wet waders, or you might fall over a rock, or you know what, things happen. So I always have some Aquashore with me, wader repair kit. Normally between the festivals, the Saturday is like a wader graveyard. Everyone's fine combing, going over their kit, just finding little nicks and things that they might need. A lot of the anglers will go to the tackle shop and buy bits and pieces, but to be fair, when you're out there, there isn't time for that. So you've got to make sure you're prepared before you go. 1, you're fishing 6-hour matches. 2, you don't go to Ireland. You go to make rigs and things like that. You go to Ireland for the social aspect. That's why it's so brilliant as well. So you don't really want to be coming back and tying rigs and sitting in your room. You want to be out and about, seeing who's caught what, mingling with everyone. So it's the last thing you want. So we've covered waders. I mean, I always go for the vast ones. I normally take 2 sets with me, and they normally do me. I mean, even like clothing, I always take, if you've got 2 jackets, take 2 jackets, because one day it could be a monsoon, next day it could be bright sunshine, but you don't really want to be going the next day with a wet coat. You feel damp, you feel horrible, and your fishing suffers from it. So I always take a couple of coats. I do take a bin brace with me if the weather's nice, because you can just wear your Crocs and just wade out and it's nice. But normally you have your waders on, chesties always, chesties, and then you just put your waterproof like Gore-Tex over the top, or whatever clothing you've got over. So you really need a jacket in your bin brace. And then there's little bits and pieces that you need to have with you, like so we'll move on to rod and line fishing, so feeder fishing. So I always go through all my braids beforehand, check it all. I mean, there's loads of braids on the market, but there's some new ones as well from Daiwa. I've been fixed on the Evo braid, which has been very good. So just check that, just make sure. The last thing you want is have your rod set up, you go over there, and then like 50 meters out, you've got a great big nick in your braid and you haven't got spare braid. So always take some spare braid with you. Takes 2 seconds, you know, put some fresh braid on. Even though I do like to soak my braid before I go to Ireland for like a week in water and washing up liquid, it just absorbs it and just makes it heavier and just sinks quicker when you're out there. Shock leaders. The more prep you do, the better it is for you. I normally tie probably 15 to 20 shock leaders. Chances are I'm not going to use all them, but you could draw a right muscle snag pit and go through a load. Last thing you want to be doing is not having enough and just you're fishing suffering from it. So plenty of shock leaders, hooks, loads of hooks. Yeah, I hate tying hooks. I really do hate tying hooks. I get a chap locally to tie mine. Dan Simper ties mine, does a great job. He ties all my pole hooks, and then my feeder hooks I tie myself, like 1 meter long, ready to go. I'm there for 2 weeks, so you need plenty of hooks as well. You soon get through them. Spare feeder tips. So I use the tournament range of rods. I'll take normally 2 11-foot rods, 2 12-13s, and then 1 which is like a 12-6, which is more of like a chucking rod, a bait up rod, and a waggler rod. So you're not going to get them in a 2-rod hard case. So you need the big festival bags, like the 6-rod hard cases. And then tips. Mega tips, obviously they are expensive, but I advise to always carry at least 1 or 2 spare with you, just for the simple fact that you get crack-offs and breakages and stuff like that. There's some new tips that I'm taking with me this year. These are the new ones from MAP. They're the ultralight tips, and they're a splice tip with decent eyes on them. I think for like that 11-foot rod, they're going to be, obviously it depends on the toe, but they're going to be perfect for that, and they fit straight into any of the tournament rods. So definitely taking some of them. And then obviously your mega tops, I normally go for the big guides because we're using braid. You want a bigger eye to go through, runs through smoother. What else we got? Bait up rods, bait up feeders. I try and get my feeders as organised as I can. Normally I'll take 2 types of window feeder, normally a solid cage and then a cage window feeder from small up to large and then up to heavy as well. I mean, if you get a horrible face wind or side wind, you know, you might only be fishing 40, 50 metres, but you need a heavy feeder to get where you want to be. And then I'll take a load of Nissa rockets, and then your standard like little cage feeders, I'll take them as well. So all of a sudden, there's like 200 feeders you got with you. I know it sounds a bit daunting if you've never been to Ireland, but over the years you sort of accumulate all this gear and you fine tune it a bit more, and it seems daunting, but once you've got it, you've got it. And the poles, always take a spare pole to Ireland. Spare 4s, 5s, obviously you're going to need them for deep water fishing. Elastics. Now I've tried all different ones and hollows and different bits and pieces, but I just tend to stick for 5 Preston, 6 Preston and 8 Preston for different lengths of my top kit depending on the depth of water I'm fishing and the size of the fish. If I'm fishing for roach that I've got to swing in, I'll probably fish a 6 for a shorter piece, which obviously it's soft enough on the strike, but then when you come to swing it in, the fish it to hand. So there's all little things like that. So 8s through 2 is a lovely elastic. Normally use it on my top 5 venues. You can sort of strike through, but still set the hook nice. And on the shallower venues, again, 5 Preston, tried and tested. I've tried them all and I keep going back to Preston original slip every time. So that's on my checklist. Poles, making sure you've got all your spares with you. You know, have 2 poles if you can, that all interchange. Because last thing you want to be is in Ireland and you've got a broken number 7 and you can't fish past 7 metres because that's the only pole you've got. I know there's people out there that will have spares for you. Whips, you know, I've got from 3 metres to 5 metres in like your standard telescopic ones, and then you've got 2 8-metre ones, because there's certain venues, if you draw them and you get out there and you find it's all fishing to hand at 6 or 7 metres, 8 metres, balls of ground bait, you know, really aggressive fishing, you need to have 2 whips set up. Last thing you want is your 3 gram rig and you spangle it or whatever happens and you ain't got another one. You can just pick your next 8-metre whip up, bosh, straight in and away you go. Bait. Bait is the next thing. Normally there's vans out there for the festivals. For me, I turn casters and I clean maggots all day, every day. So the last thing I want to be doing on my holiday is turning casters. But sometimes you have to if they're struggling out in Ireland, which I know they are, like they are here, the bait farm's struggling out there. So I'm hoping I'm not going to have to do that. I really am going to be annoyed if I have to go to Ireland and turn casters to fish, because that'll proper take the piss. So yeah, normally you can get bait out there, but if you're going to Ireland, ring the bait farm, order your bait, make sure you can get it. Last thing you want to go, oh, we ain't got no bait. Corn, I always take a tray of corn, I take a tray of hemp, and then ground bait. So my mix from a feeder is normally slightly different from a pole, or quite a bit different. I normally take some black crumb with me just to bulk everything out if need be. But my ground bait for pole normally revolves around Turbo Black, G5 and Super Crack Roach and brown crumb in whichever quantities, depending on what I'm doing and what venues. Some venues don't use a lot of ground bait and it's all about loose feeding. And then for the feeder, a lot of people tend to go for like a real active explosive in the north. In the south, the venue's a bit different, so I like a bit of Pro Natural Dark Bream and Black Crumb, a little bit of Brasm, just to sweeten it off even more. It's really good for them little skimmers. So yeah, there's all little pieces that you need to make sure they're on your list that you don't forget. Even things like worm scissors. You know, some people use the old mincers, they're pretty good out there. Maize for your maggots. They don't give you maize on their maggots in Ireland, believe it or not. They're all greasy and horrible, so take some maize to Ireland. I'm telling you, your hands are covered in, not that I'm used to it all day, every day, but Another little thing for bait, obviously floating maggots are quite big out there. These are from Cresta. They do like a little floating maggot lid. So if you're doing your floaters, that's definitely a little item. Some people just cut the top out of a bait box, but that's quite snazzy. Nice little product. What else we got? Got catapults. You know, you're loose feeding lots of casters, lots of bait in Ireland. Don't take one catapult. Take as many as you can. Make sure they're all got fresh elastic on, because you're using, like every time you ship out, you're feeding casters or whatever you're doing. Make sure your catapults are right. Drill charger is the biggest thing. Last thing you want to do is go to Ireland, your drill runs out and you go, where's my drill charger? Little things like that, but everyone prepares differently. And euros, you know, make sure you got euros, believe it or not. And a nice shirt for when you pick up that winner's check with a photo.
And Alex, all this tackle, where's it available from?
Well, obviously tackling and bait. So, yeah, we are pretty prepared in that front. Worms, you know, I'm not sure, you know, a lot of people do take worms to Ireland, some people don't, but get them all ordered with your tackle shop. Don't just go, oh, can I have 8 kilos of worms, please, mate, and expect them to have them. So yeah, I could talk all day about bits and pieces. Rigs, pole rigs. You know, I've spent a whole day tying rigs. You don't need loads where we go. You know, you probably want a set of rigs for fishing on the bottom from 0.5 gram up to 3 gram, and then you want a range of rigs for fishing through the water. And you want a few whip rigs as well. You don't need loads of rigs, plenty of hook lengths, and just making sure you know where everything is. Scale, that is the big thing for me. Make sure you get set up with your platform, everything on it, pack it all the way how you're going to take it, because take as least amount of bags as you can. So I know it sounds silly, take one big bag with everything is better than taking 4 or 5 little ones, because it's a nightmare. And that's it really. Just set yourself a list and go from there. And hopefully next podcast we do, I've got some pictures of how we got on. So, any questions, Andy? You said you were going to ask me some questions.
No, you've been very, what's the word? Organised. You mentioned the euros because the Guinness tokens are the most important.
Exactly. When I went to pick them up, I said, "You do?" She said, "Oh, where are you going?" I said, "Ireland." She said, "Oh, what? Where you spend all that?" I said, "Mainly Guinness, Guinness, food, and pools, yeah, and casters."
And casters.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to go. 25th, everybody.
Yep. See you soon.